Within 60 seconds of a jackpot being announced, before the winner has even stopped shaking, there are already people trying to take it from them. Not years later, not after some slow con builds trust over months, minutes. Sometimes it's a stranger who shows up at their door with a smile and a story. Sometimes it's a phone call from someone claiming to be the IRS. Sometimes, terrifyingly, it's someone they already know and love. And in the worst cases you're about to hear, the people who won everything ended up losing far more than money. So here's a question for you before we get into this. If you won a life-changing jackpot tomorrow, who is the first person you would tell? Think about that for a second, because in almost every story we're covering today, that one decision, who they told first, is exactly where things started going wrong. Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely read every single one of them. And as we go through these cases, I want you guessing along with me. See if you can spot the moment where the scam actually begins, before I tell you, because sometimes it's hiding in plain sight. And if you've got a friend, a parent, or a sibling who just came into money, an inheritance, a settlement, even a big work bonus, send them this video before they make the same mistake these people did. It might genuinely save them a fortune. Before we dive in, if you're new here, this channel is all about real financial mysteries, true crime tied to money, and the human side of sudden wealth. The stuff nobody warns you about. So hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it, because case number 1 still gives lottery officials nightmares to this day. Let's start in Florida, because this is one of the most disturbing lottery stories in American history. In 2006, a man named Abraham Shakespeare, a warehouse worker from Lakeland, Florida, won $30 million playing the lottery. He took the lump sum, about $17 million after taxes, and almost immediately, his life became a magnet for people who wanted a piece of it. Old friends resurfaced, distant relatives called, strangers pitched him business ideas. But the person who did the most damage was a woman named Doris Dee Moore. She approached Shakespeare claiming she wanted to write a book about his life and protect him from people trying to exploit his winnings. Ironic, considering what came next. Moore worked her way into his finances, took control of his assets, and by 2009, Abraham Shakespeare had vanished. His family reported him missing. Moore told people he was on a trip, that he didn't want to be found. It took months before police discovered his body buried under a concrete slab behind a home connected to Moore. She was eventually convicted of first-degree murder in 2012. This is the scam I call the new best friend. Someone who shows up right after the win, positions themselves as your protector, and slowly becomes the only person standing between you and your own money. If you ask me, this is the most dangerous scam on this entire list, because it doesn't look like a scam at all. It looks like friendship. It looks like someone finally being on your side. Now let's talk about a different kind of danger. The one that comes from people you already trust completely, your own family. Jack Whitaker from West Virginia won $314 million in the Powerball in 2002, at the time the largest single-ticket jackpot in American history. Whitaker wasn't naive with money either. He already owned a successful construction business. But almost immediately after the win became public, he became a target. He was robbed multiple times. In one incident, someone broke into his truck outside a strip club and stole a briefcase containing over $500,000 in cash. On top of the external threats, Whitaker gave enormous sums to his granddaughter, Brandy Bragg, money that fueled a lifestyle around her that ultimately ended in tragedy when she died from a drug overdose in 2004, just 2 years after the win. Whitaker himself later said publicly that he wished he'd torn up the ticket. This case shows something a lot of people don't want to admit. Sometimes the danger isn't a con artist at all. Sometimes it's giving too much, too fast, to people you love, without any structure or boundaries, and watching that money accelerate problems that were already there. Here's a question I want you to sit with for a second, because we're only 2 cases in. Out of everything you've heard so far, which one shocks you more? Being murdered by someone pretending to protect you? Or watching your own family fall apart because of the money you gave them out of love? Let me know in the comments, because the answers people give on this one are always split right down the middle. Let's move to scam number 3, and this one is happening right now, to real winners in real time. It's the fake lottery official scam. Here's how it works. Someone calls or emails a recent winner. Sometimes they even find out through public records, since many states require jackpot winners to be named publicly. And they claim to be from the Lottery Commission, the IRS, or a federal agency. They tell the winner there's a processing fee, a tax prepayment, or a legal fee that needs to be paid immediately before the funds can be released. Winners, especially ones who've just had a life-altering shock, are often disoriented enough to comply. The Federal Trade Commission has logged consistent patterns of these scams for years, and older winners in particular are targeted because scammers assume they're less familiar with how legitimate lottery payouts actually work. Vittel, and I want you to remember this, real lottery organizations and the IRS never ask for advance payment before releasing winnings. Taxes are withheld from the payout itself. If anyone asks you to wire money, buy gift cards, or send cryptocurrency before you can access money you already won, that's not a fee, that's theft. Scam number 4 is one of the quieter ones, and honestly, one of the most financially devastating, because it comes wrapped in a suit and tie. Predatory financial advisors. When someone wins a massive jackpot, especially someone without prior experience managing large sums, they're often approached by financial planners, some legitimate, some absolutely not, offering to manage everything for them. Janet Lee, a woman from Missouri, won $18 million in the Illinois lottery in 1993. She wasn't reckless with all of it. She gave generously to causes she believed in: education, politics, community organizations. But she also received financial guidance that, according to reports at the time, was poorly structured for her situation, alongside heavy spending she wasn't fully prepared to sustain. Within about a decade, Lee filed for bankruptcy, with only a few $1,000s left to her name. Cases like hers are part of why financial researchers have studied lottery winners so closely, because the pattern repeats. Sudden wealth without a trustworthy, independent advisor, someone with zero personal stake in how much you spend, often ends the exact same way it started: broke. Here's my honest take on this one, and I think it's the part most people miss. The system around sudden wealth is almost designed to fail people. Nobody hands you a manual when you win. There's no mandatory cooling-off period, no required consultation with an independent, fee-only advisor who has no incentive to sell you anything. You go from an ordinary paycheck to tens of millions of dollars, sometimes within days. And the first people lining up to help you are frequently the same people who profit the most from you making bad decisions. That's not a coincidence. Let's talk about scam number 5, fake charities and fabricated investment opportunities. The moment a jackpot winner's name and hometown become public, and in most U.S. states, this information is public record, they become a target for an entirely different kind of predator. Not just individuals, but organized operations. Fake charities calling to request emergency donations. Fraudulent investment funds promising guaranteed returns, always with urgency, always needing an answer today, not next week. This is exactly the kind of pressure tactic used in classic Ponzi structures, and lottery winners are considered prime targets because they often have liquid cash sitting in an account and little experience vetting where investment opportunities actually come from. The public record aspect of this is precisely why several U.S. states, including Delaware, Kansas, and others, have shifted in recent years to allow winners to claim prizes anonymously or through a trust. It's not paranoia, it's protection. Because the moment your name and your winnings hit a public database, you've effectively rung a bell that every scammer in the country can hear. We're deep into this now, so let me ask you directly. If you were suddenly handed a public list showing exactly who in your city just won millions, and their home address was one search away, how would that make you feel about your own privacy? Because that's the reality these winners are living in. Type your thoughts below. I want to know if you think lottery winnings should be public record at all, or if every state should allow anonymous claims. Scam number 6 is one that hits particularly hard because it exploits something completely human: loneliness and the desire for connection. Romance and companionship scams targeting lottery winners have increased significantly as more of these stories circulate online. Scammers actively search news articles and public winner databases, then create fake dating profiles or social media accounts specifically to target people who've recently come into money. They build relationships over weeks, sometimes months, expressing love, planning futures, and eventually asking for temporary financial help: a medical emergency, a stuck shipment, a legal fee to unlock inheritance funds of their own. It sounds almost too obvious when you hear it laid out like this, but psychologically, it works precisely because it isn't rushed. It mirrors real relationship timelines. And for someone whose life has just been upended by sudden fame and wealth, someone who suddenly can't trust old friends because they might just want money, a new person who seems to want them, not their winnings, can be incredibly convincing. If you ask me, this is the cruelest version on this list, because it doesn't just target your bank account, it targets your ability to trust anyone ever again. And finally, scam number 7, the one that ties every single case on this list together: isolation from real financial oversight. This isn't one specific incident, it's the common thread running through nearly every lottery tragedy in modern history. Winners who avoided a public meltdown almost always share one trait: they built a team before spending a dollar. A fiduciary financial advisor with no product to sell, a tax attorney, sometimes a therapist, because the psychological shock of instant wealth is real and well documented. Winners who skip this step, who go straight from the claims office to spending, gifting, or investing based on advice from whoever got to them first, are the ones who show up in headlines 5 years later, broke or worse. Sandra Hayes, part of a Missouri office lottery pool that won $224 million in 2006, has spoken publicly about exactly this: about family members and even old friends treating her differently overnight, expecting handouts, resenting boundaries. She managed to protect herself largely because she was deliberate and cautious from day one. That contrast, cautious winners versus impulsive ones, tells you almost everything you need to know about who survives sudden wealth intact. So here's the lingering thought I want to leave you with. Winning the lottery isn't actually the hard part. Keeping it, keeping your relationships, your safety, and your sense of self intact after winning it, that's the real challenge nobody prepares you for. Every single person in this video had one thing in common: the money itself never destroyed them. It was always a person, a decision, or a moment of trust placed in the wrong hands. That's the part that should actually stick with you, not the dollar figures, the human choices behind them. So, let me ask you one final time before you go. Out of everything covered today, which case do you think you'd be most vulnerable to? The fake friend, the predatory advisor, the romance scam, or simply giving too much to family too fast? Be honest with yourself in the comments, because I promise you, most people think they're immune to this until they're standing exactly where these winners were. If this video opened your eyes even a little, hit like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more true stories like this one.